Good evening. Good evening. It's 5:32, and I would like to welcome you to the City Hall Council Chambers for the Board of Public Works meeting. And I will hand it over to Kyla Cox-Deckard, our president, to get started.
Thank you. I'll call to order this regular meeting of the Board of Public Works this Tuesday, June 3rd of 2025. First up, we have messages from board members. Do we have any messages from the board this evening?
Just briefly for me, just a reminder that I will not be available for the next 2 meetings. I'll be out of state.
Thank you. Next up is petitions and remonstrances. If we have anyone who is attending the meeting who would like to make a public comment about something not on the agenda, now is the opportunity to do so. If you're joining us on Zoom, you can use the raised hand function or the chat function to let us know that you'd like to make a comment. And if you're in the room, you're welcome to approach the microphone.
We do have some members of the public on Zoom, but no questions. Okay.
Thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. Under the consent agenda, we have Resolution 2025-039, 4th of July Parade, Resolution 2025-040, Taste of Bloomington, Resolution 2025-046, BHA Family Night Out, Approved Service Agreement with Bluestone Tree LLC, Approved Service Agreement with Cassidy Electric LLC for facilities, Approved Service Agreement with Ancris LLC for facilities, Approved Service Agreement with Economy Termite and Pest for facilities, Approved Service Agreement with Bounds Flooring, Inc. for facilities, Approved Service Agreement with Hoosier Drywall Specialist LLC, and approval of payroll. Do we have any items on the consent agenda that need to be removed? Do we have any public comments on anything within the consent agenda this evening?
None on Zoom.
All right, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting of June 3rd, 2025.
Second?
All right, I will call the roll. Carone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next, we have new business. First, under new business, we have approve amendment number 2 to consulting contract with Butler, Fairman, and Seifert for High Street modernization and multi-use path.
Good evening, Neil Copper with the Engineering Department. This is a project to construct multi-use path on the east side of High Street between Arden Drive and Hunter Avenue, and it also modernizes 2 existing traffic signals within those limits. We have an existing preliminary engineering contract with BF&S. This amendment removes some services that are no longer necessary, and it also adds services for right-of-way staking, as well as higher complexity appraising services. The not-to-exceed contract amount increases by $43,770 to a new total of $1,143,160. Staff has reviewed and supports this amendment, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
All right, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve amendment number 2 to the consulting contract with Butler, Fairman, Seifert for High Street modernization and the multi-use path.
Second?
All right, I will call the roll. Carone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Thanks. Next, we have approved contract with E&B Paving for North Walnut Street resurfacing project.
Hello, Zach Rogers with Engineering. This is a contract with E&B. This would be for asphalt resurfacing, pavement markings, curb ramp modifications, and guardrail replacement, stormwater infrastructure updates on Walnut Street, just 400 feet north of Old 37. Additionally, this project will also have lane closures on it. So these bids were opened aloud on June 2nd at noon at the board work session. E&B Paving was the lowest and responsive bidder. We had 3 bids on that project, so engineering recommends awarding this contract to E&B Paving.
Thank you. Questions from the board on this item?
I assume the specific lane closures and things will come to us separately.
So the lane closures are part of the plan, the MOT plan that was attached probably back when it was presented to you guys when it was under engineering. I can always come back and give an update.
And the description of the work, you said, is just north of the intersection of Old 37. Is that the Showers Park crossover, or is that the further north, like
Further north.
Cascades, the other end of Cascades, I
So it
guess?
would be, you know where McDonald's, basically, it starts roughly right in front of McDonald's and runs down to Old 37.
Okay, all right, so it'll be that segment there.
Yeah.
And then is that a flagging lane closure?
That will be a flagging operation. They'll have to keep traffic flowing.
And can you just reiterate the dates of the project, or the anticipated dates of the project?
The anticipated dates would be, hopefully this month, would be starting and end in November 1st, or before.
You said end of November?
So yeah, November 1st.
Okay, by
be the-
November 1st, okay.
I think, I believe this project is a 90-day, is what
Okay.
we're giving them.
And will the lanes be open during, like, high-volume times, like football?
That's a good question. Yeah, we'd have to work through that, and I guess work with the contractor and make sure we don't have any major closures.
I'd also add, in addition to football weekends, the residence hall move-in days, those high-traffic days would be ones to potentially have the lanes open.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and those would be, probably for a period of about 3 days, a Sunday through Wednesday, roughly. So it might be during peak working times. All right. Any other questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the contract with E&B Paving for the North Walnut Street resurfacing project.
Second?
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approved change order number 1 for the East 3rd Street, Hawthorne to Rose, protected bike lane, Phase 2.
Zach Rogers again at Engineering. This is a change order for Milestone Contractors. This is for the Phase 2 protected bike lane along 3rd Street. This change order includes 4 additional rubber delineators and 1 flexible delineator post added to the project, and 1 additional calendar day. This change order increases the contract amount by $1,375, which will bring the revised total to $108,875.
Thank you. Questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
All right, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve change order number 1 for the East 3rd Street from Hawthorne to Rose, protected bike lane, Phase 2.
Second?
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approved parking and lane closures at 206 North Walnut Street at the Princess Theater.
Hi, Maria McCormick from Engineering. This is a request for a sidewalk and parking lane closure for the sidewalk diversion for 206 North Walnut, which is the Princess Theater. They will, once they get their COAs from Historic Preservation and BRI, begin the work of deconstructing the damaged ceramic tiles, or terracotta tiles, sorry, that are on the facade. In order to facilitate that, they had to put up a new scaffolding that did not allow for the proper width of a sidewalk underneath, so they will need to divert the sidewalk into the parking lanes using the 3 of the 4 southernmost parking spots in the 200 block of North Walnut. They will use the southernmost spot for staging once the demo work does begin. And they are asking for that through August 8th.
Thank you. Questions on this item?
Is there a sense of timing on when those COAs are coming from Historic Preservation?
So they go
and
to
BRI?
Historic Preservation, I want to say Thursday night, for
Oh,
that
this
meeting.
week.
This
Okay.
week, yes.
Great.
Yes, so they are on the agenda. They are in the process of getting all of those approvals right now.
Wonderful, thank you.
But we wanted to get the sidewalk diversion up before they had all of that so that pedestrians had a safe way to travel. But no work will begin until they have those. So yeah, this is just a permit for using the right-of-way. This is not a permit for any work to begin.
Any other questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve parking and lane closures at 206 North Walnut Street for the Princess Theater.
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approved public improvements for Duncan subdivision.
This is a request for acceptance of public improvements that were required as part of the Lutz subdivision, which is 614 through 632 West Duncan Drive. This will accept the public improvements, which are a sidewalk and 9 street trees, into the city's inventory, and will move this from the public improvement bond into a maintenance bond period, which will last for 2 years from today. Their maintenance bond will remain in effect for 2 years, and then after that 2-year period, as long as the sidewalk stays good and the trees don't die, they will be free. So we are excited to have this one done. This plat was recorded in 2008.
Thank you. Questions on this item? Any public comment on this item?
None on Zoom.
All right. Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we accept the public improvements for Duncan subdivision.
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approved Duke utility easement at 1981 South Henderson Street.
This is a request for an encroachment agreement with Duke Energy at the CBU building. CBU is planning upgrades to a water booster station located between the CBU Service Center and the fire station. As part of those upgrades, they require additional power. To get that power, Duke needs this easement to put new infrastructure in place on city property. So they just need your approval of the easement.
Thank you. Questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the Duke utility easement at 1981 South Henderson Street.
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we have intermittent sidewalk closure on East North Drive.
Good evening, Kyle Ball from Engineering. AstroTurf Corporation is requesting an intermittent sidewalk closure at the construction entrance between the Monroe County Community School Corporation's Administration Building and the softball field there for synthetic turf installation. So this is on the north side of East North Drive. After speaking with the engineer, we came up with a bit of a game plan here. When there's no adjacent sidewalk to detour folks to, since it's going to be so infrequent with the trucks entering and exiting, we're recommending a standing closure where somebody is posted to help guide folks through just as those vehicles are entering and exiting that construction entrance. This is being requested to be approved for tomorrow and then run into the end of the school summer. So August 1st, I believe that is, of this year. There is still an issue with the grading permit release for this location, so we'll be working with CBU to make sure that that's addressed before this gets fully issued, so we're not, stepping on any toes in that regard. Happy to take any other questions on this as well.
Thank you. Questions on this item? And because the entrance in the staff report is labeled as a construction entrance, I'm assuming it is like a makeshift entrance just specifically for construction. So it's not an apron that currently exists where traffic would normally be coming in and out, which is why they needed the sidewalk closure.
Yes.
So now they'll just staff that intermittent closure when that's needed. I think that sounds like
The only area of concern would be just the status of the sidewalk that's existing and the curb line there. So when we do a post-work inspection, we'll make sure that all those are intact and satisfactory before we close that out.
Any other questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the intermittent sidewalk closure on East North Drive.
Second?
All right, I will call the roll. Crone.
Aye.
Roach.
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approved lane and sidewalk closures by HNTB on South Rogers Street.
Hi, Kyle Ball Engineering again. So HNTB is subcontracting this CBU project that is requesting a lane and sidewalk closure on South Rogers, adjacent to the 1501 South Rogers property. They'll be updating a sewer main in that location. So this would encompass the western sidewalk and the southbound traffic lane on South Rogers. This would be a stationary closure in place for a 2-week period, looking for July 7th until July 21st for this work to be completed in. I know we had a couple of questions on just notifications to the adjacent property owners, as well as some of the other stakeholders, Bloomington Transit. So I reached out to H&TB yesterday afternoon, rather. They confirmed that as part of the bid process for this project, it's going to be a requirement that all of the properties along that corridor are notified, as well as the businesses, all of those stakeholders, emergency services, Bloomington Transit are all going to be a part of that process. And I think there was a second question on the signage for potentially being posted for Switchyard Park, just noting it being open. They couldn't definitively say whether they could accomplish that or not, but I'm going to reach out to Tim Street in Parks, and we'll coordinate that. They might have some of that signage available that they could just post on their behalf.
Thank you. Questions on this item?
Not a question, just thank you for checking into those couple of things we talked about at the work session.
Yeah, really liking the process. Big thank you to Miranda for helping drive that.
Thank you, Miranda.
And as we discussed yesterday during the work session, local traffic will continue to have access to those places, the residents, the people who are living along that stretch, but also the people who are traveling to Switchyard Park, Community Kitchen, the warehouse, any of these other organizations that might be along there. So there will still be local access. It just won't be a pass-through route.
Yes, correct. Yes. So, and just a little note on that, we're going to have a little tweak to the temporary traffic control design, opting to do some local closure points there on the south side of the intersection, just north of the work zone. Just as an added precaution, hoping to deter people from traveling down there and having to turn around. We discussed that yesterday too. There is some space to do that, but in addition to that, we're going to ask that signboards be placed a couple of weeks before this closure is implemented, so we can get good public notice out and hopefully just decrease that traffic flow naturally ahead of that closure period.
And I know it sounds like there's still pending conversations with Bloomington Transit. I wasn't sure if the transit would be part of that local access.
That's the question.
What would that look like?
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with their bid process and what those requirements are. I can continue to coordinate with them. Love to come back. We have some time between this actual closure being implemented. I could bring a report back on that.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great to just know how they're handling that, just because it is a busy, transit area through there, and just the ability for riders to know what to expect if they're being, let off in a different location some way. All right, any other questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the lane and sidewalk closures by HNTB on South Rogers Street.
Second?
All right, I will call the roll. Crone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Thanks. Next is approve Monroe County Convention Center utility relocation closures.
Hi, it's Alex Gray from engineering, and I believe I almost finish out the next few items. So for this one, it is part of the Monroe County Convention Center. This one specifically is the different utility groups that are needing to come in and do different sections, moving and reinstalling different sections of their paths. So this one, the utilities involved are specifically Smithville Fiber, Comcast Fiber, CenterPoint, Further Gas, Duke Energy for electrical and light pole removal. All of them we discussed, they came in at separate times, and we discussed about having the same kind of setup. That way we don't have to have multiple closures like that are on and off, and confusing the public. So we have come up with, while working with BRCJ, to do lane closures on West 3rd. Specifically, those are the outer lane closures. So the inner ones will still be open and people can go east and west. It'll just be that the outer ones will be closed temporarily. And then they have alley closures, and those will be the north-south alley that is above West 3rd, or it would be, I think, no, it's still West 3rd in this section. I almost got confused. And then it would be on the north-south alley on the south part of it that is going toward Smith Avenue. And then you have east-west alley that kind of connects over to that Smith Avenue north-south alley. And then we have sidewalk closures. Those are going to be along the West 3rd Street on the south side only. And then it'll be it would be the western sidewalk of South Walnut Street. And they are hoping to have all the utilities go through and be done within 3 weeks, and they want to start as soon as they can.
Thank you. Questions on this item? We had a question yesterday about the sidewalk closure, and I heard you said that this sidewalk closure is the south side.
Correct. The north side will not be impacted.
Is the north side the section that's closed?
The north side is where you're talking about, that's
fence.
further west. Yeah, that one is the section that is closed, that goes up to the Beeline. This one is between College and Walnut. That is the south side sidewalk that'll be closed.
Okay.
The north side of that, which is between College and Walnut, will be open. And then all of those curb ramps will be open so everybody can go between the different corners and be able to get over to the other side of College, go south, go north, and
Okay, so a pedestrian who was traveling along the south sidewalk, when they got to the block north of the current convention center, is that right?
right.
They are going to, I'm sorry, is it north? No.
This is the section that's like, if you want to say like east of the current convention center.
So if they're traveling on the south side of the sidewalk, east of the convention center, they're going to cross to the northern section of sidewalk, somewhere around Walnut. And then they're going to travel on that north section of the sidewalk. They will then need to cross back over because they can't use the sidewalk on the north side.
For the Beeline closure?
Yeah, in the section across 3rd Street from the convention center. So they'll be like
I believe so, yeah. That sounds correct.
Okay. And then you said it is the outer lanes that are affected, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve Monroe County Convention Center utility relocation closures.
Second?
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up, we have approved sidewalk and parking lane closures on North Dunn Street for Poplars Development.
So the Poplars development is along East 7th Street between North Dunn Street and North Grant Street. And they have a series of closures already, and that one includes the bike lane, the protected bike lane between North Dunn and North Grant Street along 7th, and the eastern sidewalk of North Grant Street. So this one will be added to those sets of closures, but this one is specifically for the western sidewalk of North Dunn and the western parking for those. And for this one, this is the first phase of the closure, and it is for June 6th through August 3rd. And then the next phase we'll bring later to a board meeting, and that one is anticipated around November.
All right, questions on this item? And for this sidewalk closure, pedestrians are going to be guided to the sidewalk across the street?
Yes, if on the Grant side, we had talked about how we couldn't really do a walk around in that area, just from the configuration and having vehicles be able to turn onto Grant and that nature. And we also mentioned not being able to do a mid-block crossing. There's a similar problem on Dunn Street, where the alley, the curb ramps are not really ADA compliant, and so we're pushing them to do 6th Street, you cross to Dunn, go up, and then be able to use 7th Street.
Any
The
other?
north side of 7th Street, because
Yes.
the bike lane is the closure there. Okay.
Yeah, that's correct.
Any other questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
All right, seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve sidewalk and parking lane closures on North Dunn Street for the Poplars development.
Second?
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox-Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next, we have approved sidewalk closure for East 7th Street at North Jefferson Street.
This one is for Blackwell Construction. They're working with the developer, Todd Saxeter, who is doing the 2 duplexes at the corner of 7th and Jefferson. As part of that, they have to remove the existing sidewalk and put in a 5-foot tree plot and then a 6-foot sidewalk. So the current setup is the sidewalk is completely adjacent to where the parking is. So this is just adding in that. And in order for them to remove the sidewalk, they have to have the sidewalk closed. For them, they are hoping to pretty much continue forth from where they are, because they had to do some utility work this week, and so they're hoping to get approval and continue, and then be done by June 14th.
And then what's the diversion for this?
I believe it should go over to across the street for Jefferson, and then I don't remember if 7th has it all the way there. I'd have to look at a map.
So the sidewalk that is being replaced, is that sidewalk on 7th, or is it on Jefferson?
It's both. They're actually replacing both the Jefferson side and the 7th, but they're going to do them in sections. I believe they're going to start on the Jefferson side first.
And so there is a sidewalk on the other side of Jefferson.
There's not on 7th, but on Jefferson there is.
Okay. So where do pedestrians go on 7th?
That's a good question.
They are replacing that sidewalk, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I don't remember if 7th is wide enough.
Maybe we should table this one and come back to it at the next meeting when we have a better walk around.
Likely that's going to be the solution, is they'll have to take a lane of 7th.
Yeah, walk
Yeah,
around.
and they'll have to make a walk around.
For this, I mean, it looks like it's strictly for the reconstruction of the sidewalk and it's not for utility relocation, it's not for,
For them rebuilding the sidewalks. So this is two duplexes that are going into these lots. And the sidewalks didn't meet functional compliance with planning, so they have to replace the sidewalks. A lot of times, we don't get into that with duplexes, but since the sidewalks didn't meet functional compliance, they did have to be replaced. What we can do is we can require them to put Jersey barriers on 7th. There is a bike lane. We'll have to do some figuring on this one, but we'll figure out how to keep the sidewalk open, or keep a sidewalk open.
my other question, and this is maybe a question for legal, is the permissions or limitations on staff sidewalk approvals for closures. Because one thing we could do is, because there's a plan for the Jefferson side, if they were planning on working on the Jefferson side first, like tomorrow on the 4th, we could possibly approve the Jefferson plan, but I don't know if staff can approve the 7th Street plan if they want to move on to that before our next regular meeting, because I hate for them to have to remobilize. I mean, if we could do it in a continuous fashion, but just after staff have the opportunity to approve that. So I don't know if that is possible for a staff approval for a week long. I mean, I'm just estimating it's going to be a week-long closure maybe on, it may just take a couple days.
I believe the way it's phrased.
I would have to go check we have a flow chart.
I've seen the chart.
You've seen our
I'm
chart.
not committed to memory the chart.
Yeah, I don't think we can, even if it's not intermittent. I don't think we can go past 3 days.
That's, the caveat is if they don't do a walk around.
Right, so if they do a walk-around.
We should be able-
We can do staff level approval, because
That would
it's
be
not technically closing the sidewalk.
They still
It's-
have an
They still
operable
have
path.
a sidewalk on the same side of the road.
Okay. That may be a
So-
good option, because that's what we ultimately would have to
That's what
likely
we're
have.
ultimately gonna have to do, is
a
they're gonna have to
walk-around.
do, they're gonna have to put Jersey barriers up and create a sidewalk temporarily through there.
Okay. Well, I think it would be good if they're compliant with what's needed for the purposes of the Jefferson side, it would be good to allow that work to happen, because I'm assuming, since it's tomorrow, I think,
Yeah.
that they are,
Yeah.
like, they've got
And I
people
think
ready to
if you
go.
put some sort of caveat on there that they provide a,
Walk around,
a viable walk-around for 7th Street
in accordance with staff.
in accordance with staff and municipal code would probably be, would that work, do you think?
Sorry, can you
If they approve the permit and approve 7th Street with a viable walk-around per staff acceptance?
Sure. Audrey Brittingham, City Attorney. I think that the answer is yes to that. I can't really give you a definitive answer unless I look into it further, to be honest. I feel pretty confident, though, that Maria is right about that, given that that's what we have done in the past. And
I can
Yeah.
state it in code in the minutes to document where it's at in our ordinance that allows the staff level approval with the walk-around. So,
All right, that may be a good solution, so that they can go ahead and get the work done that they need to do, and we can ensure that it complies with that code.
Yeah, I think if you allow them to use Elena 7th or part of 7th for a walk-around with staff approval.
Okay. Other questions on this, since we've complicated it?
No, would we approve what's on the agenda as written with the understanding that? Okay.
Yeah, I think with that addition, that they, like, in conjunction with staff and the ordinance requirements of walk-around access for that 7th Street side. Okay. Any public comments on this item?
none on Zoom.
All right, seeing none, who wants to word this motion?
I move that we approve the sidewalk closure for East 7th Street at North Jefferson Street with the additions that we discussed for staff level approvals per municipal code.
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Crone.
Aye.
Roach.
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next is approve sidewalk closure for MCCSC CoLab ELC Able Parking Improvements.
So this one is BRCJ and Kreider, and they are working to redo some concrete entrances that go into the MCCSC's CoLab building. Those are, and then the CoLab building is at the corner of East Miller and South Henderson Street. And so the entrances, one of them is on Miller and one of them is on Henderson. And so they're hoping to do both of them without any lane closures, but they will have to close the sidewalk as the sidewalk goes through the driveway entrances. So that's where the sidewalk closure is. And I believe they are doing them in sections. And the timeline I have gotten since the meeting yesterday is July 7th to July 18th, or about 2 weeks.
Questions on this item?
I guess would the stretch of sidewalk along Henderson and the stretch of sidewalk along Miller Drive be closed at the same time, or those would be not necessarily together? If working on one entrance and then the other one?
You'd know better.
For the record, I'm Bill Riggert with BRCJ. It probably will be done independently, but on Miller, we're going to put a walk-around in, but we'll walk around onto the school's property or onto CSC's property, so we don't have to close the sidewalk or have a detour. However, on Henderson, we'll detour at Black Lumber at the multipurpose path and run them up on the east side of Henderson and back over at Miller. So, if that helps.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Any other questions on this item? Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
All right. Seeing none, is there a motion?
I move that we approve the sidewalk closure for MCCSC CoLab ELC Able parking improvements.
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks. Next, we have approve addendum number 1 to the Innovasol contract for City Hall lighting.
Good evening, Miranda Beaver for JD Boroff, Operations and Facilities Director. This is a change order in the course of the lighting replacement at City Hall. We had 6 additional changes. These were mainly to replace bathroom fixtures that need to be retrofitted for the type of wiring that these LEDs require, and some additional wiring and wall components for the wall switch dimmers that we're installing. The total of these changes is $21,671, which brings the contract price to $275,671, and this does represent a 9.2% increase in the contract amount. So if there is any other adjustments, we will be doing a phase 2 on the lighting. And we recommend the approval of this amendment.
Thanks. Any questions on this item? Any public comment? Oh,
question.
sorry, I'm sorry.
Very slow on the uptake. You mentioned the 9%. Can you just describe that a little bit more? So is there a leeway between what can be an
So-
addendum and?
Normally, on this type of contract, the contractor is only allowed to go 10% in change orders of the original amount of the contract. So because we're approaching that 9.2% with this first contract amendment, the decision was made that if there are any other adjustments, we'll bring this back as a phase 2 and have to rebid out that section of the project.
Okay, so a whole new contract that
contract
could
will have.
potentially have a different contractor.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think they've discovered all of the minor changes, so we're hopeful that this will not be another contract brought to you.
Any public comments on this item?
None on Zoom.
All right. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve addendum number 1 to the Innovasol contract for City Hall lighting.
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. Next up is staff reports and other business.
Miranda Beaver, Public Works. I just want to put out there that the next Board of Public Works meeting will be scheduled for June 18th. This will be a full meeting. There will be no work session, so there will be June 18th at 5:30 p.m. will be the next meeting. And this is to accommodate for scheduling to make sure that we have enough board members present for a quorum.
Thank you. All right, next up is approval of claims. Any questions on the claims? All right, any public comment on the claims? Seeing none?
None on Zoom.
Is there a motion?
I approve claims tonight in the amount of $1,072,458.55.
Second.
All right, I will call the roll. Corone?
Aye.
Roach?
Aye.
Cox Deckard, aye. Motion passes. And as there's nothing else on the agenda, I am calling for adjournment.